Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. How's everyone doing? Last session, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So my name is Ahene. I am Tinuiti's Chief Strategy Officer. I've been with the organization for about 5 years. Joined after selling my agency CPC Strategy to Tinuiti back in '08. Post-integration, I've been really focused on 3 core things. 1 is product, 2 is corporate development, and 3 is overall strategy. But really the way I think about my job is I work on the things that are going to impact our clients, everybody in this room, our agency, and our ecosystem 13 months out in the future, and build relationships to be able to solve those challenges.
5 years, Nee?
5 years, yeah.
5 years? 5 weeks. So I'm Jeremy Cornfeldt. I'm president of Tinuiti. Nee was doing last-minute research before we came up because he wanted to make sure he knew what he was talking about when we came here. Busted, Nee. I joined Tinuiti because the way I like to put it is we've got so many toys. 5 years ago, you would have never thought that an agency with its heritage in performance marketing would be working with Elf Cosmetics to secure the spot in the Super Bowl. And, you know, the fact that we have come this far in such a short period of time is extraordinary. And my remit in coming here was ensure that the work that we're doing with you today continues to be excellent, whether it's a point solution or multi-solutions, but also to look at everything that we've got, all these toys, as I was saying, and how can we continue to build holistic solutions for all of you and really push the needle forward. So that's my remit, and I'm excited to be here, and it's great to be here at an event like this so early on in my tenure, in my 5-week tenure here at Tinuiti. Okay. Yes, it's a slide with a pink elephant, and when we were putting this together, see what's kind of funny, when we were putting this together, we were saying, all right, there's one subject that we haven't discussed that is the elephant or pink elephant in the room. But what's interesting, and why Nee was doing his last minute research, is as I've listened to whether they've been conversations on stage or just hallway conversations or at the luncheon, this topic has been discussed and is being discussed. And so we thought it would be important to finish this session out with, you know, what is the big topic in our space and just in general that we need to really be having a conversation about.
Yep, and as you guys have probably guessed, it's generative AI. And the reality is that, you know, things are still really, really, really early. But unlike other recent technology waves like Web 3.0 or blockchain or the metaverse, it's very clear that the application of this technology represents a true step function and paradigm shift in computing, not just shifting how the digital industries work, but entire other ecosystems and industries, shifting who winners and losers are going to be in a way that we haven't seen since the adoption of the internet or the adoption of the mobile phone. And while ChatGPT from OpenAI is probably the killer app that we're all super, super aware of, it's important to realize that these generative technologies, especially the frameworks that power them, are largely open source and easily available to researchers across the world. What this means is that anyone can use these technologies to create novel and interesting applications, and companies and organizations are pushing this technology. They don't necessarily have the incentive to keep up the status quo. It's very much a Napster moment, meaning that there are going to be new winners and losers, and that will arise out of this progression of technology. But it's super, super early. And so our job as advertising and marketing professionals is to think about how this technology will change the way consumers interact with products, our brands, and society as a whole.
All right. So, Nee, I've got a lot of questions for you. I think, where do I even begin? Here's what I want to do. I'm going to lay out a bunch of questions that I actually don't want you to answer because I think that there are things that all of us are talking about, and we could just go on and on. I have one specific one that I do want you to answer, but some of the ones that I've heard people discussing and I think are important are, you know, so what does this mean in our day-to-day work? How does this impact what we're doing within the platforms? I mean, AI isn't something new, and we've been using it and using machine learning and seeing how it impacts our campaigns. So that's one. If you want to all bring that to me afterwards, he'll answer that. Creative, I think, is another area that warrants discussion. And I've heard a bunch of you talking about how you're leveraging it today within your marketing initiatives. Legal is another piece. How are people going to get paid that have created stuff that's now being leveraged? The regulatory environment, I mean, there's going to be a lot of regulation around this, and there was a really fascinating conversation happening at lunch about how the government will mess it up, and we have to just pay attention to how badly they mess it up and figure out how we innovate around it. So I think that will be interesting. But the question that I do want you to answer is this. You've heard a lot of business leaders, in particular in technology, saying we need to pause. Like now is a moment where we have to pause. And you and I have talked a little bit about this. Like, why do you think, forget the ones that are trying to catch up. So why do you think people are saying now is a time for us to pause?
Well, I think the piece around people trying to catch up is really a huge driver of the conversation. So recently, Dr. Hinton at Google, he's an executive at Google, one of the godfathers of AI, left Google and is going on a media tour around how we need to slow things down because the risk of kind of an AI takeoff is real and present. And it's the competitive pressures of the fact that, one, the technology was introduced and developed and commercialized by OpenAI. They've been around for, 6-7 years. They released GPT-3 back in 2021, ChatGPT in December, ChatGPT 3.5, I want to say in February, and then GPT-4 in March-ish, April. And the partnership with Microsoft, and then Google reacting, and then quickly rolling out features and AIs that have been interesting and adopted. It is that competitive pressure between the organizations that is really causing scientists that have been very thoughtful and meticulous about the technology that's driving the concern. I'm not going to talk about the corner cases, the Matrix situation, the Terminator situation, a super intelligent new species taking over. Like all of that stuff, you can read comic books and read movies in Hollywood about it, but it's the competitive pressures behind the technology that are driving the concern. Because the risk of doing this the wrong way, it's not like, hey, we did it the wrong way, so this product doesn't launch and we don't make money. The risk of doing this the wrong way is really unpredictable. And I think that causes a lot of consternation and well-founded concern for anybody that's been very considerate about how we drive and innovate this technology over time. So I would say hats off to OpenAI. They haven't started training GPT-5 yet. They have driven the conversation into the mainstream. We are all aware, we're all using some form of generative AI. I think ChatGPT was the fastest growing consumer app of all time. And we can actually have the opportunity to have the conversation, to think about the implications of the widespread adoption of this technology, not just by corporations, but state actors, non-state actors, and individuals.
So, last one, promise. How do we manage the unpredictable though? Because that conversation has happened a little bit. I mean, what recommendation do you have for all of us? Because I think people want to tap into it and test it, and there's a lot of conversation about that at lunch. So how do we manage the unpredictable?
Okay. So I think the way I think about it is, I'll take away the corner cases, because if those are actual outcomes of this technology, I think there are bigger, we have other things to worry about if the corner cases actually happen. So let's take those out. Let's just assume if those are going to happen, they'll happen. If they're not going to happen, they're not going to happen. But how do we start to use the technology? And I think back about my own career and how I got into tech. I started playing with HTML. I started playing with basic code. I started just playing around with the technology to understand how the technology works. And then from that, I could take my own experiences and then project how I could leverage the technology to empower the things that I was trying to do. When I was 16, it was launching a rap lyric website. But now at 38, it's about how do I drive better outcomes for marketing? How do I generate better insights for creative? And I think that's the opportunity in front of us, Today, you can literally go to ChatGPT, throw a data set at it, just copy and paste any data set and say, tell me what you think about the data here. Give me 4 observations. And so it's going to drive interesting insights. Now, those insights, because they aren't necessarily contextualized, they may not be the best, but it helps you understand the power of the technology in its rawest form. And you know that the technology today is going to be the worst it ever is. And so that's how I'd encourage everybody in this room to embrace the technology, is to play around with it, see what it does, see what it can do, see where it falls short. Because yes, this technology is extremely powerful, but it's not all-knowing quite yet. There's still gaps in the technology, and we're going to see the space continue to evolve, and everybody here is starting from the same page. And so there's nobody that's truly an expert, no matter what they say on Twitter.
All right, fair enough, Nee, fair enough. So there was a lot of great content that we heard today, and I'm not going to call out all the content because I'm sure people have their favorites. I have some of my favorites too, but I did want to share some sound bites that I heard from folks on stage or in breakout sessions, but also just in conversation. So, this morning Corey said, it's not an accident. I really love that. I don't think anything that we're doing right now is any sort of an accident, especially the way that you just described how we manage the unpredictable nature of AI. Another client said during the lunch, don't compromise. And I think that that's really important. Now, you were talking about your product, and I love that. But I think it's important as we think about our marketing initiatives as well. Budget doesn't necessarily mean that we have to compromise. We've got to make sure that we are focused on what we want to accomplish and move forward and do that, and do that with a level of authority and determination. The other one that I heard that was interesting is, kind of funny for someone that's a performance marketer to say this, but data is backward looking. And it's not necessarily going to predict the future. It's going to help inform, but it is backward looking. And we do have to balance, and Zach said this at the beginning, what kind of information we have, but also some intuition. And I think that that's important, whether you are a brand marketer, a performance marketer, or both. But my favorite one that I heard in the hallway was one of the clients came to me and he said, what I've heard today has got me stretching my imagination. And I think that that's really important for all of us, because that's why we're in this space. That's why it's so much fun. And our job, our job for you, yes, day to day, is how do we manage your budgets? How do we make sure that we are executing flawlessly and drive the return that you need for your business? But the other part of our job, and I hope that this is what you hold us accountable to, and it was what Nee was talking about, we have to be seeing around the corner, but we also have to know, and why days like this are so important for us, is that we're in this and we're on this journey together. Like all the things that Nee was just talking about, we're doing this with you. We want to learn with you. We want to fail fast. We want to optimize effectively. And that's what's really important in our partnership. So on behalf of everybody at Tinuiti, I just want to thank our clients for making the time in your schedule to be here with us, because the pace of change is the slowest it's going to be right now. Just like Nee was saying, the technology is the worst it's going to be right now. Everything is only going to get better, and everything is only going to get faster. So days like this are really important. And I also, we said this at the beginning, I do want to thank our partners. Without not only your contribution to this event, it wouldn't be possible, but these are our clients, and I say that collectively. They're our clients, and we appreciate your partnership in working with us and supporting our clients. And everyone should know that the input that we get from the work that we do with you, they take to heart, and this goes into their roadmaps. And so, there's shared accountability, and we are all interconnected and interdependent. And so thank you for being here with us today.
And of course, today couldn't happen without the Tinuiti team behind it. You guys have been working tirelessly over the last quarter, months, years, no, not years, maybe a couple months to put this event together. We've had numerous Tinuiti lives, and I guess this one absolutely has been the best one ever. So thank you to the Tinuiti team for put together this fantastic event. And
all right, guys, the moment you're waiting for, it's cocktail time. Thank you, everybody, for being here with us today.